2025 was one of those years that reminded us just how quickly a business can change when a leader decides they're done running in reaction mode. Across the companies we worked with, we saw the same pattern over and over again. Leaders came in thinking they had a cash problem or a people problem or a capacity problem, but underneath each of those was something bigger. They didn't have enough visibility to make decisions before the fire started, and they didn't have enough structure to keep the team moving in the same direction when things got busy. And honestly, that combination kept a lot of CEOs up at night. But here's the good part. 2025 was also the year many of those businesses stopped white-knuckling it and stepped into a new level of resilience. Hi, I'm Pam Meissner, COO and CFO at Cathcap. Today, I want to walk you through what really changed this year. Not vanity metrics, not anything that belongs on a sales sheet, just the real milestones, the moments when a company shifted from, I hope this works, to, I finally understand what's driving this business. A year of turning the lights on. If I had to sum up 2025 in a single theme, it would be this. Clarity came first, calm came second, growth came third. So many CEOs began the year feeling like outsiders in their own numbers. They were relying on bank balances or gut instinct because they didn't have a system they trusted. And when you don't trust your system, you start hesitating. But something interesting happened this year. As leaders started getting visibility, clean reports, real forecasts, usable data, you could almost watch the shoulders drop. One CEO said, I didn't realize how much energy I was spending guessing. And that stuck with me, because once the guessing stopped, the leading began. We watched businesses move from, why is cash always tight, to, oh, cash is tight because revenue is seasonal, expenses aren't, and our pricing hasn't changed in 3 years. That kind of insight changes a company fast. Milestone number 1, forecasts that actually told the truth. It sounds simple, but for many companies, this was the first year they had a forecast built on current reality instead of old assumptions. Not a spreadsheet that lived on someone's desktop. Not a projection built from habit. A living, breathing model that helped leaders see problems before they hit. The result? Instead of bracing for impact every quarter, teams were actually ahead of the curve. Hiring became intentional, cash planning became steady, and decision-making went from reactive to strategic. When visibility goes up, anxiety goes down, every time. Milestone number 2, accountability stopped being a dirty word. This was also the year accountability finally clicked for a lot of teams. Not the scary version, the version where everyone knows what good looks like, where production numbers aren't whispered but shared openly, where people actually liked seeing how their work contributed to the whole. We saw teams shift from, I hope everyone is doing what they should, to, I know exactly what everyone is responsible for, and so do they. You'd be amazed how much faster work moves when the expectations aren't living inside the CEO's head. One client told us, for the first time, I wasn't the bottleneck, and that might be my favorite sentence of 2025. Milestone number 3, profitability became a discipline, not an outcome. Across industries, we saw companies doubling top-line revenue and, more importantly, multiplying their bottom line. But here's what's important. The growth didn't come from heroics. It came from structure, from finally understanding where money was made, where it leaked, and what levers actually moved the needle. For some, the breakthrough came from pricing. For others, from compensation clarity. For others, from finally aligning capacity with demand instead of hoping the team could just push through. One business saw its profit nearly triple because the CEO stopped trying to do every job in the building and spent their time on the work that actually generated revenue. Another hit their highest margins ever simply because they cleaned up data that had been confusing them for years. Profit didn't show up by accident. It showed up because leaders created the environment for it. Milestone number 4, teams started working with the CEO instead of around them. A surprising highlight of 2025 was how many businesses finally reduced the CEO's burden, not because the CEO stepped back, but because the systems stepped up. We saw leadership teams who suddenly understood the numbers without a long explanation. Ops directors who could answer cash questions before the CEO even asked. Managers who finally had visibility into their own departments instead of relying on guesswork. That shift from CEO dependence to organizational competence might be the most powerful transformation of the year, because when the team has clarity, the CEO finally gets their time back. And when the CEO has time back, growth stops being accidental. Milestone number 5. Leaders started making decisions they'd been avoiding for years. Every company we worked with hit a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes dramatic, where a tough decision finally became unavoidable. A pricing change, a compensation redesign, a restructure, a new direction, a no that had been waiting far too long. And because leaders weren't making these decisions alone or in the dark, they moved faster and cleaner than they ever expected. One CEO told us, "I didn't need someone to cheerlead me. I needed someone to show me the implications of every choice." That's the heart of strategic partnership. Not telling you what to do, but showing you the terrain so clearly that the right decision becomes obvious. A year of growth, but also a year of maturity. 2025 wasn't just about higher revenue or better margins, although many companies saw both. It was about stepping into a new level of leadership, the kind where the business finally becomes understandable, predictable, steady, the kind where you don't need to run the business off adrenaline because you're running it off insight, the kind where your systems don't just support you, they free you. The real highlight of 2025, watching leaders realize they didn't have to do this alone. That financial clarity wasn't a luxury. That accountability wasn't punishment. That structure wasn't rigidity. It was relief. We saw companies stabilize. We saw leaders develop. We saw teams rise. And we saw momentum that's going to carry well into 2026. Not because the market gave anyone a gift, but because leaders built something stronger under their feet. So here's the question I'll leave you with as we close out the year. If this much changed once you had clarity, time, and confidence, what becomes possible next year if those things become your new baseline? Here's to a year of real progress and the kind of growth that actually lasts.